Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Alan. Morning,
How
Tony.
are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Excellent. How are we all coping with this hot weather?
Well, had 2 sleepless nights.
It's challenging, isn't it?
Very. Did you record the meeting with the Parkinson's art man?
Yes, I did. And I've realised that I haven't edited it. I realised this morning that I hadn't edited it. So
Good man.
Job for the weekend. But
Okay, so it's on its way.
it's on its way. I apologise.
I missed it.
Yeah, he was very, very good.
Excellent.
He was very good. Yeah. I think he's he's encouraged or motivated a few of us to go down to the Oxo Tower late next month.
Oh, and see the exhibition.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, very good. Good morning, everybody. Some new faces around the screen. I don't recognise Tony.
Ruth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, Ruth sent us an invitation to join your.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm from South Lincolnshire, but we're connected to the Peterborough group. So thank you for asking us to join.
You're very welcome. And talking of Ruth, here she is.
Yes.
Perfect timing, Ruth.
Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Lovely to see you.
Morning.
It's glorious, isn't it? Morning, Caroline.
Morning.
Hi, Carolyn.
It is beautiful. Hi, Alan. Good to see you. And everybody else.
Indeed.
Morning. Ah, we've got Ruth with us, so
Yep.
it's still functioning.
Yeah.
We missed you last time.
Yes, I've been a busy little bee, and I was in bed poorly for a few days last week as well. So
Oh, bless.
Back on it now.
Back on it now. Yeah, we knew you were poorly because there was no Facebook activity.
oh no, I still did that. I just did it from my bed.
David, you sent me the photos. Trish.
Hi, Trish.
You sent me the photos, David. Are they approved for use?
The photo's fine. My email address is incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah, the email address you've put on that draft poster is incorrect, Trish. You need to put that right.
Lisa came to me and said, has everybody agreed to the use of their photo?
Who's on
it? I'll come back to you later, Trish.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
I just wanted to get it in before everybody got here, and if necessary, we could do another one today.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. What you guys are probably not wondering what on earth we're talking about. Trish is producing a new pamphlet for the branch, and we wanted to put a picture of one of our Zoom calls on it. But we're supposed to be asking permission from everybody to be able to do so.
Oh, my
So,
God.
Okay.
if you don't mind, could we ask David if you could do a screen grab, Dave?
Yeah.
And if anybody doesn't want to be on it, turn your video off. So we'd assume on that basis that everybody's happy. So I'll leave it with you, David.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I'm staring at the camera.
Yeah, stare at the camera. That's going to
crystal clear, David.
Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Smile.
Yeah.
Cheese.
It was nice that,
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you done?
I was going to say, it was nice with the photo of the computer.
Say that again. Missed that.
Trish, your link is breaking up.
Said it was nice with photo of the actual computer.
Good point.
Morning, Nigel.
Keith,
Good to see you.
I knew.
While we're waiting for Ledia to arrive, and I've suggested she'd arrive sort of about 1:45, just thank you for being here on Thursday, which allows me the opportunity to go and play golf tomorrow. So thank you very much. It's very selfish.
Oh, school.
Thank you. And last Friday, I got involved in a Parkinson's charity golf day down at Surbiton, and they called our team Cambridge Parkies, and we had a fabulous day. We finished 5th, and I think they raised over £10,000.
Fantastic.
It was a lovely day. I played with my son. Yes, Caroline, in a moment. I played with my son and a couple of colleagues, and we had a ball, I'm pleased to say. So, Jeannie Dello, Senior Parkinson's Local Advisor. I wonder who that is.
Morning.
Morning.
Hello.
Morning, Marjorie.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
And who's Jeannie Dello?
Hi, I'm just struggling to get my video on, but I'm your new local senior Parkinson's local advisor for the East team.
And your light on.
So,
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah, they've suggested you turn the light on.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I just like this is the first time it's not worked. So
Never mind. You.
there you go.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
Nice to
Thank
see you.
you.
Thanks for joining us.
Right.
Oh, it's nice to be here.
Well, Caroline, you asked to see my tattoos. Hold on just a minute. Oh.
Aha.
That is the chemical symbol for dopamine. And Tom that's the chemical symbol for serotonin. And they just struck me that they were very personal things to do. It didn't hurt. I've got to tell you the story though. The story was very funny. I'd made my mind up I was going to do it. I bought a couple of temporary tattoos and asked people, and they said, do it. You know, it means something very personal to you. Go ahead and do it. So I decided which tattoo parlor I was going to go to, and Friday, 5 weeks ago, I walked through the door of this tattoo parlor, and it's loads of young people tattooists and a number of people being tattooed. And as I walked through the door, this old codger, they all looked at me as if he's in the wrong place. He should be in the newsagents next door. And Guy wandered up and said, can I help? I said, yeah, I want to talk about tattoos. And his immediate response was, who for? Me, I said. Oh, right. What do you want? And I'd got the pictures on my phone that showed him. He said, oh, I know what they are. That's dopamine and serotonin. So I said, have you done them before? Yes, he said, but they're not common. And every time I have done these, it's been very personal. They've got a personal connection with those two neurotransmitters. Fine. So can we do an appointment next week? And he said, my 11 o'clock hasn't turned up. I can do it now. So I said, I've only got half an hour on the meter. I just need to go and feed the meter. So I legged it up to the road, and he's probably thinking, never going to see him again. Got back, walked in, he said, wasn't expecting to see you. And an hour later, I've got 2 tattoos. And people are saying, but what if you don't like them? Well, you know, for goodness sake, I'm mid-70s. I haven't got to live with them for very long, but they have been an amazing source of conversation.
Brilliant.
You know, really good. And I'm unbelievably proud. And they weren't painful. They weren't painful. And it's brought about sort of a conversation with the nephew of the founder of Parkinson's, which we've got coming to talk to us on October the 8th. So brilliant.
It's also prompted me to do a piece for the newsletter about dopamine itself.
Good.
Which is a very strange neurotransmitter, because an excess of it has been linked with schizophrenia.
Yep.
And so it's weird altogether. So I think it made a good piece. I went on to Wikipedia yesterday, I think, and it was pages and pages of it. I mean, I'm going to have to digest it.
But the interesting thing is, Stephen Hobbinger, who's going to come and talk to us, in October, was telling me what all the lines and what these things actually mean, and apparently they're carbon elements. So I've now got to identify what each part of the symbol means. So
right,
yeah.
And will you have it labelled then?
Well, that'd be too much information, Alan. and I think it would take away from the simplicity and beauty of the thing.
Very much so.
Yeah. So yes, it was an interesting experience.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yeah, please.
Remember that book that you recommended to us some months ago about ending Parkinson's?
Yeah.
The American study.
Yes.
I actually finally started reading it this week, and it's really readable.
It is.
And really interesting in a broad sense. So if anybody would like to borrow it from me, I should be finished with it in a couple of days' time. Just tell Keith and he can give me your address so that I can mail it to you.
That's very kind.
It's really worth a read, and it gives you a slightly better overall picture of what prevalent diseases we've had in our lifetime and how they're gradually being controlled.
Who's the one who's going to begin?
Yeah, I found it a very easy read, and
it is,
and a stimulating read as well.
In which case, could I ask one of you to write a review? Because I thought about it the other day. I thought there's quite a lot of books about Parkinson's.
Yep.
And I mean, Awakening's been the obvious one, but there's quite a lot. I've got some on the Kindle which I haven't read yet, and I thought it might be nice to have a section where there was a review of the book.
Did I see you put your hand up then, Caroline?
Yes, I'll do that, David.
Okay, brilliant.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Could I borrow it next?
Yes, Trish, of course.
Well, I've got a copy also, and so there's two books circulating.
I don't need Trish's address. I'll just put it through her letter.
That's fine. Excellent. Hello, Martin.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry, we're late.
That's all right. You're okay. Morning, Ledia. Good to see you. Thank you for.
Good morning. Yes, good to see you.
It's really good to see you. Really good to see you. I'm pleased we got together eventually.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come here today.
No trouble at all. Before I ask Ledia to start, I just one apology to those that were here after Alan had arrived. Alan asked me whether I had done the recording for the Parkinson's art, and I haven't. It's fallen into a black hole, a bit like the minutes for the last committee meeting, which only got done this week. So I will be doing that over the weekend, along with the video of today's session. So, Ledia Alushi, we were introduced to Ledia by Michelle Ware, who was, I think, our first speaker on our Zoom meetings way back. Tony, you're waving your hand?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You mentioned something that that caught my attention. You mentioned Parkinson's art.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can send me some information about that, because I do a lot of art for Parkinson's, and I have a website for art, and we raise money through some of our pictures. So if I could get in touch with you about it, that would be good.
Tony, do you want to put your email address on the chat to me?
And then send it to me.
Then send it to you, Alan, because I was going to say.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
No, I'll tell you what, Tony, I'll get it from Ruth.
Okay.
Can you let me have Tony's email address? Yep. Let me have that. And I'll get you in touch with Alan also, because Alan is also an artist who works for Parkinson's and is a member of Parkinson's Art.
Oh, right.
I'll get you two in contact.
Thank you very much.
No trouble. So, sorry.
Get a bigger picture.
Michelle Ware was the person who came from Cambridge Biotech right at the beginning of our talks. And she introduced us to Ledia, saying she's somebody that we should be interested to listen to. So, excuse me. Ledia is a trained physiotherapist. She is currently a PhD student at Cambridge University, and she's working on a specialist subject of exercise for people with Parkinson's at the early stages. I think that's right.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Right. If I can put you on Spotlight and then share screen.
Mm-hmm.
Spotlight for everybody. Share screen.
How do we
right.
get into this?
So, and if I could then ask everybody to mute themselves, that would be fabulous.
I need it. Shut the door.
No.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, it's the show's yours.
All right. I will share my screen with you right now. So can you see okay? Can you see the screen?
That's good. Perfect.
Excellent. Yes, you did a great introduction. Thank you very much, Keith. I am still a physiotherapist, working in the community. I used to work in both in London and Cambridge, and then when I came to Cambridge, I started doing more work in the community privately as an independent physio, because I had a very special interest in Parkinson's disease. And in hospital, we didn't really see them so much in terms of rehabilitation. It was more of a, when you're in hospital, having falls and what have you, and referring them to the community. And then we didn't really have much input. That's kind of the pathway when you're in hospital. So I was working privately for a number of years, working with people with Parkinson's, and I developed an interest in the area, and mostly looking at the people that I was working with. They were in the early stages of their condition, and due to the fact that it's a private physio, it was more initiated by them. So they were very, very interested in exercising. They wanted to know more about exercise. They wanted to know what exercises, how to progress them, and how the different exercise would impact on the symptoms. So working with these people that were in the early stage are very keen. I was like, I really would like to look into this further. Look at why is that sort of already happening? How come in the NHS or in the current pathway that education is not provided, or when is it provided? So that's how I started the idea of having my PhD. So I wrote a proposal, and although I'm a private physio, it was accepted by the NIHR, by the National Institute for Health and Research, and I got funded for my 3 years here at Cambridge University. And when I started looking into the proposal, I started from the beginning in terms of understanding how what we know and what we understand about exercise, how can that impact our participation with exercise, but also specifically when is that information sort of provided. So my title is sort of the role of physical, in the PhD, the title is the role of physical health education for people who are newly diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And by definition, I mean, with the physical health education, I mean any information or any education that is provided the aim to improve the understanding on how and why exercise or physical activity might benefit in disease like Parkinson's, and when is that information provided, and how can it impact participation, how it can impact how someone engages with exercise in their during the sort of the disease trajectory. So obviously we are in the last 10 years or more, there's a lot of research coming in terms of showing the role of exercise in Parkinson's disease in many different areas, such as like rehabilitation. There's a lot of great studies suggesting that it can improve motor symptoms, like your balance, your gait, reducing your falls rate. It can also impact on your non-motor symptoms, such as apathy or depression. And overall, it improves cognitive function and improves the quality of life of a person with Parkinson. But also some earlier studies suggested that there is a preventative also, it might be a preventative role in exercise. And they looked at people who exercised in their midlife and had a look at their risk in developing Parkinson's. So might be a benefit in preventing PD. But also, like with other chronic conditions, we know that exercise is very, very beneficial in preventing chronic conditions such as diabetes or cardiovascular problems and cancer. We also have some studies looking at medication and how it helps, not so much in terms of the absorption, but in terms of how effective the efficiency of levodopa might be when you're exercising. And lately, there's a lot of focus on the neuroprotective element, neuroprotective role of exercise, and it's been shown in animal studies, but also in human studies, that exercise can improve those brain-derived neurotrophic factors, the BDNF, which are very the proteins that can have that protective role in protecting the neuron cells from dying early. And that's been shown in some studies, and there's more and more focus in that area. And I think that charitable trusts like Parkinson's and NICE guidelines, they all promote, and there is a clear understanding that exercise is important. It's just a matter on how then we move from that information, how do we bring it into our everyday life and in the management of the condition and the self-management. And this is how my PhD sort of fits into this. In terms of self-management, like with many chronic conditions, people with Parkinson's have to manage medication, they have to manage and look at their symptoms, monitor how those symptoms change, and also fit into their life with the exercise. But what really makes a good self-manager, and there is a study by Ellis et al. That looked into people with chronic conditions, and they all discussed that it's about the information that they know, it's how much knowledge they have, and that will determine how well they're managing any aspects of their conditions. And when we look at knowledge in Parkinson's, we know that general knowledge, not just necessarily the exercise and physical activity sort of understanding and knowledge, but general knowledge can improve your understanding in terms of it provides that sense of control, really. The more knowledge you have, the more sense of control. That's what studies have been shown. That also it reduces the misconceptions that might exist, also, which can be a barrier to accessing care. And overall, in terms of exercise and knowledge, has been shown that people who know the benefits of exercise, they tend to be more willing to participate and they engage a bit better. So when we're looking at the guidelines that exist about about exercise and education in Parkinson's, the National Institute for Care and Excellence, they suggest that people with Parkinson's should have education and advice on physical activity as early as possible. That's what they recommend, but it's not really specified who gives that information, at what time, and is it checked. It's just very, very broad. And then when you look at the recent Parkinson's UK audit, there was a 49% of participants, and I think there were about 8,000 people that participated in that audit in 2019, and 49% of them, they mentioned that they didn't, or they were not sure that they had received any education around the time of diagnosis. And the timing is very important, because obviously with conditions, with a condition like Parkinson's, which progresses over time, you want to sort of address the issues as early as possible so that you can have a better input and you can improve that sort of self-management and lifestyle behavior. But what we know is just telling someone that exercise is good for you doesn't necessarily lead to that informed and knowledgeable patient. We need to go a little bit deeper into just exercise is good for you. And what at the moment happens, we know is that obviously with a disease like Parkinson, which is so heterogeneous, very different from person to person and from stage to stage, it's just providing one information, one education program for everyone, having that one size fit all approach is not really the personalized care, and it's not really meeting that sort of the guidelines of personalized care, the model that we have. When I looked at the research that exists in terms of education programs, I did a systematic review looking at education programs that looked into Parkinson's. I found that there were 24 studies that were very much focusing on self-management, and they had topics such as health promotion, stress, medication, relaxation exercises. And only 6 of those were very much specific to why is exercise important, what are the benefits of physical activity, how can we identify barriers, how can we set goals. There's very important questions that all people that I've been working with, when they come to physio, those are the questions that they really want to know. What exactly am I going to see when I do this exercise? How long is going to take me to see the improvements? What improvement am I looking for, and how can I modify my exercises? And those are the questions that I was always asked. And there's very little kind of evidence at the moment. And most of those programs that exist, those 6 studies, they tend to focus in population that are at least 6 years down the line from the diagnosis. And if we're trying to say, well, why, if you're wanting to prevent the deconditioning that is associated with Parkinson's, why don't you start very early in providing and promoting the exercise appropriately at the time of diagnosis? So that's what my physical health education and the role of that physical health education at the time of diagnosis is trying to look at. So what I wanted to talk about today, as I said, I've done a systematic review, but I wanted to talk today about my mixed method study. It's a study that includes both surveys and interviews with people with Parkinson's as well as healthcare professionals to look at what exact education is provided around the time of diagnosis. And looking at those surveys and then getting to explore further into that information with interviews, semi-structured interviews with people with Parkinson's, no matter what the stage, because I want to look at what education they get throughout the disease trajectory. And then bring that information together with some focus group discussions to look at what people with Parkinson think that is important to discuss at a very early stage in terms of physical activity and exercise, what healthcare professionals think is important to discuss, and then co-design a program so that it is delivered very much within the 12 months since the diagnosis, and have a look at what that information, that education program, what impact it has into improving exercise efficacy, improving participation. And it's a PhD, so it's, it has to be feasible. So it's just the beginning it's a small study, but then hopefully in the future, sort of planning and rolling it out into more trusts and larger participants. So I've been working with people with Parkinson's. I've been working with experts in both clinical experts and academics and researchers to try and get as much as I can the questions to the point, so that I'm asking the right questions. I would have an advisory group, and the aim is to get as many people as possible into the project, so that I can have a representation of many people from all areas. It's very difficult, or even people who are hard to get. Obviously, I'm using surveys, so people mean that they will have to be able to use computer, but that's not necessary. I can always provide, I can always get in touch and provide a paper form. We're trying to get as much as as much as participation as possible, and at a regional level as well. That's why I'm obviously here today as well with you to talk about the study. And in terms of the surveys themselves for people with Parkinson's, I want to look at what the needs are, what people with Parkinson's think that they want to know about exercise and physical activity around the time of diagnosis, but also have a look at what information they got around that time. And as I said, so the aim to co-design a program, to create together a program that both experts of living with the condition, but also experts of knowing about the condition can come together and design something that is specifically aimed for people who are newly diagnosed. But those who participate in the project, they don't need to be newly diagnosed. As I said, we really much want to have that insight of someone who's at a later stage, looking back and thinking, you know, I wish I knew then what I know now. Working with the healthcare professionals is mainly to talk about what they believe they should be talking about. What resources are they currently using, and how does it match with what the guidelines are at the moment? And I am at the stage now that we started publishing we published the surveys in July, a couple of weeks ago, and starting recruiting with Parkinson's UK. So National Parkinson's UK are really helpful in getting participants. So we're working with media at the moment to get as much as possible, as early as possible, the adverts out, and hoping to start recruiting for the interviews as well in the meantime until September. And I think in September time, we will, September, October, I will bring everything together and hopefully come back and discuss with you what I found, what exactly is that people with Parkinson's and healthcare professionals think that is important to talk about around the time of diagnosis. And as I said, I am advertising, so I got a little poster that I shared with Parkinson's UK, and I'm sharing with social media. I'm not going through the usual NHS sort of GP or neurologist referral, because I wanted to be a bit quicker, because I've got a different study coming next year. And usually if you go for ethics through NHS, through the Health Research Authority, you will have to wait for a good 6 months. So I'm sharing this with you for my details if you wanted to be a participant, but also if you knew of people who might be interested and you want to get me in touch with them, then I would really appreciate that too. So hopefully I wasn't too quick and I was able to deliver all the points across in terms of what the study is. And I would be very, very happy if you have any questions or discuss the ideas in my study and what you think, given your experience and where you are at now with your Parkinson's and your exercise experience overall.
Ledia, thank you very much. That's brilliant. Could you unshare your screen now? Thank you. Well, that's really interesting, and I'm delighted you've got Parkinson's involved. It was good to see that the East of England Research Interest Group's also a participant. Our colleagues at Peterborough have got a really good exercise program running twice a week. Did you want to mention that, Ruth? Whether there's any participation, maybe your group and maybe Anita and Hannah could add to what Lydia's doing?
I mean, we did do 3 classes, but over the lockdown, we've just reduced it to 2. We do a Parkinson's Pilates class, which is very, very good for certainly the stretches we do are incredible. And, you know, for people that play golf, like Keith, it's nearly everybody on the class that has done that. I think Jackie and Barry as well are on as well, that they've took part. Certainly it makes a real difference, and you can notice when you've done it. In fact, at the end of the class, when we do the same stretch as we did start with, you can just get a little bit further, and it really makes a difference. And then we do another activity, which is keep fit, which is to get your heart rate up a little bit more, but certainly really empowers you to get on, and it releases all the endorphins in you, and they're really, really good actually. So and we don't charge for our classes, because we actually genuinely believe that we're really helping our members with their symptoms, and we've had some really good results from it, so we're very, very keen to progress. We also do a Tai Chi class as well, which will be coming back later in the year.
Amazing. Are those running now since COVID?
We are having a break in August, summer break in August, but we'll be starting again in September. But we have got classes this week to finish off. So yeah, so you're very welcome to join us at any time. Both the instructors will be more than pleased for you to join us.
That would be excellent. I'm sure I will ask Keith for your details to get in touch. I know in Cambridge, and I've been talking to a PD nurse manager, Danielle
Duffield, yeah.
And she's been extremely helpful in shaping also this project, because I know that in Cambridge there are in Cambridgeshire in Peterborough, they used to run before COVID. They used to run the education and exercise classes, which is amazing, and it's obviously very interesting, because when you look at research in articles, and you look at when I was doing the systematic review, you obviously miss out a lot on unpublished work, like for example what's going on in Cambridge and Peterborough, for example, or in other trusts. They're not really published. You can't really see what that looks like and the impact that it has in people with Parkinson's, especially when it comes to the education. So how much information is provided and how early on, and is that something that we can improve so that it can improve participation overall in exercise?
I think I'll just say that I think that we don't talk about the exercise enough from the outset, because people want to almost wait till they get some symptoms before they exercise. But in actual fact, I think it needs to be part of the package that we send out for newly diagnosed, to say to them, right from the outset, it's a key part of the medication, really.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's kind of the point in I was trying to, from a physio perspective as well, from a being a physiotherapist, and looking at it from more of a preventive role, rather than waiting until your symptoms or until you have your first fall, or to start looking at how can I stop falling. Is more about how can you prevent from falling before you ever had a fall. And if as I was saying, thinking about Parkinson in a condition that is progressive, you want to start the intervention as soon as when you're as strong as you can, because you're much more able to do more exercises, different exercises. But like it was mentioned, I think in the chat, although the only reason that the project is focused on a newly diagnosed is only to specify that as Parkinson's is so heterogeneous, if you were to put people who are at a very early stage and then someone who is more into like 6-7 years down the line, you might not be able to have that one size exercise, one size education that meets both people's needs and preferences. And I do believe that we need to be driving more towards a stage-specific approach. Not that we're only going to work with people who are newly diagnosed, but I think it should be separated as the disease progresses, so that it can address the different challenges and different issues and different questions and preferences that people might have as the disease progresses. And I think that's one of the questions that I want to ask in my interviews. Being where you are at the stage that you're now, if you were to think of when you were first diagnosed, that information that you got then, is it relevant still today, or as your symptoms change, you feel like you want to know different things, you want to know different aspects of how exercise can help, or I don't know. That's one of the things that I most projects at the moment in clinical clinical trials, they have that one size fits all approach. Everybody with Parkinson's, 100 and what have you people, and some in first stages, some in the second stage, some in third stage, some in the fourth stage, and they all receive the same intervention. And I think it's in the last 4 or 5 years that we have seen more stage-specific approach, which I think would be more relevant.
Lydia, have you had contact with Julie Wilson, the Parkinson Area Development Manager?
Not as a PhD, only before, because of the Rigis and different activities. I think the conferences that they used to run, Dance and Parkinson's, I think it was a couple of years ago. That's how I got to talk to Julie, but I haven't actually got in touch. I should.
Well, I'll make that happen, because I'm working with her on a group that are looking at the newly diagnosed and their access to exercise. So I think there's a really strong correlation between what you're doing and what Julie's doing. So I think
that would be excellent. Yeah, thank you very much.
I will.
Could I ask a question?
Please do, David.
Lydia, and I know it's too early for you to come to any conclusions, but I just wondered if, you've read a lot of the literature, do you get a feel that aerobic exercise, like jogging and fast walking and that sort of thing, is better, worse, or just different to stretching and things maybe to do with balance and so on? Is there a divide between aerobic and less aerobic?
So it's a great question. I think it's a very common question. I think most people have a similar question that I've spoken to. I think what is very clear is that there is no exercise, one type of exercise better than another. I think all exercise have benefits. It depends really on what your needs are and what you're trying to get from that exercise. If we're talking about someone who is already quite active and they can start running, they can do that aerobic exercise, then yes, definitely start pushing into that area. If you are very stiff and rigid, and then perhaps you might benefit better from a Pilates, from a stretching exercise. So I don't think there is one exercise that is better than the other. And I think that's what the research says at the moment, that exercise and physical activity, being active, is very important. And starting, because some people might not be very keen in exercising, starting with something that you enjoy or something that you can do, and then starting pushing those guards a little bit, starting pushing a little bit more your so challenging yourself into different modes of exercise. But no, definitely there is no clear advantage of aerobic versus, it's just different. What we know is that in order to get the benefits, the neuroprotective benefits, you need to be exercising. Is the how much effort you put into the exercise and how frequently you do that. And that's why it's key to start with something slow, depending on your level, depending on your needs, and then start building in that your maximum capacity, your effort into exercising, because they're recommending that we need to be working at sort of 80% of what you can really be doing to get really good benefits. But not necessarily that you have to start there. I said it's starting early with something that you enjoy, like a walk, and then increasing your walking pace, and maybe go a little bit into the jog, and then maybe go into the run. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Ginny, you're probably the person that gets contacted the earliest in somebody's journey with Parkinson's. What's your take on this?
So, well, I probably should declare that I'm really new in post. So,
okay.
But with another hat on in another life, I'm actually just about to start a PhD looking at the psychosocial aspects of kind of getting all these things in place early on. So I'm definitely, you know, with is it Ledia? But you know, if you can have these early interventions and support, well, support as well, really. But you know, when right at the beginning, then I can understand where she's coming from with that, but that's probably not the Parkinson's UK official line, because I wouldn't know that at this particular time. But with a research hat on, what she said makes perfect sense completely. So you know, but yes, I mean, I have personal contacts with people with Parkinson's, and I think one particularly is right from the beginning. She's been very, very focused on making sure that she was always quite active anyway, so but she's tried to make sure that she can retain that as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how would you like us to forward this, Ledia? Obviously, you've been approved by our Parkinson's, so you being here is not an issue. And if any of our, can I circulate your email address to the group?
Yeah, absolutely. Circulate the email address and my contact details on the email. As I said, because I know that some people might not be very used to using computers, or they might not, or they might prefer to complete the survey on paper. Then I'm more than happy to distribute or to post things. But also, any ideas of communities or areas that is worth getting in touch with to make sure that we increase the participants, that they're usually not participating in research. So there's a very active group of people with Parkinson's, and there's a not so active, like research active group, and I think that's what I would really like to reach as many as possible. So if you have, if you know people, then please let me know and I can get in touch with them.
What sort of numbers are you looking for your in total for your research, or is it
number or who?
No, number. What sort of number are you looking for to be involved in your research?
Yeah, so for the interviews, I'm only looking for 15 people with Parkinson's, no matter what the stage of their with Parkinson's they are. With the surveys, because it's a survey, you need big numbers. So 300, that's a big goal, I suppose, but as many as possible. And I think Parkinson's UK and Amelia was very reassuring, saying that, you know, you will get quite good numbers, both from people with Parkinson's and healthcare professionals. And I know that, you know, Parkinson's UK, they're extremely, all the members are extremely research active.
Yeah. Are you, or have they pointed you in the direction of any other groups like ours?
No, not yet. I think that's a discussion that I'm going to have with Amelia when that's one thing that I'm very keen to do in talking to similar groups. But no, we haven't actually discussed this yet. Obviously, because I'm part of the national, the NIHR and the ARC, which is the Applied Research Collaboration here in the East of England region. I'm in touch with a lot of consultants that work in different trusts, and I think they're also helping to spread the word. And I'm talking with quite a lot of consultants, both in Cambridge, neurologists, but also in Peterborough and in the I think in Norfolk.
Yeah, Norfolk and Norwich.
Yes.
So you're probably, have you spoken with Roger Barker or Paul Worth?
Roger Barker, Professor Roger Barker, we talked, and Dr. Williams Gray, they're part of the advisory group, and they've helped enormously, and they have a huge list of Parkinson's patients in their database. So I really, really hope that I'll get quite a good number.
Certainly from our
we need 299 now.
Yeah. And talking to people, and I think it's my I think the difficulty that I am mostly facing, well, in my head at least, is that when you talk to people about exercise and education, I think mostly we focus on exercise, And although I am a physio, and I definitely, I really wanted to look into the best exercise and all the rest, and depending on the stages. But I think this is more about the education. This is more about the information, and how important is that into driving this exercise self-efficacy. I'm really trying to get people to talk to me about their needs in terms of what they would want to know.
It's such an interesting subject, that, because the early stages of Parkinson's, two of the critical things are fatigue, you just don't feel like you want to exercise, and followed quickly after that is apathy, that drive, that motivation to want to go and do it. You've got to get newly diagnosed people with Parkinson's through those two early symptoms, those two early traits, which is, I think, the big challenge.
Absolutely, and it's a big subject. Like when I talk to people, like I was saying, most people that I met in my clinic, they were people who were interested, they were already motivated, and they just wanted to know. But there's a big group of people who, obviously, you have the shock of diagnosis. And when I was doing the PPI work, those people said, you know, when I was first diagnosed, I didn't want to hear about exercise. I didn't know about exercise. I was mourning. I was in a state that I just wanted to get, to understand what was going on. And that's exactly what I want the interviews to show. I want to see what people at that time, what they really want to focus, because it might not be the right approach to talk about education, to talk about exercise education right from the beginning. You might need a different education, which would be more of the psychosocial, or the more about apathy and about depression, that are linked so strongly with Parkinson. About 50% of people with Parkinson's experience apathy and depression. So it might not be that, like with everything, like with the medication, you take a pill, but it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So you have to know who is responding well to that information and who isn't, and therefore target your interventions appropriately. So if someone needs more help in that area, in improving, getting to understanding the conditions and apathy and depression, then we need to target an intervention that is focusing more down those sort of routes. And there's other people that they just really want to know how they can get their control back. How can I do exercises? And then we provide that education to them, rather than mixing the two, which is what mostly happens, again, from the clinical trials. You mix everything together, you provide a self-management program that talks a little bit about medication, a little bit about depression, a little bit about physical activity, and then provide it to everyone, which I find that is probably not ideal. And that's what, and it's not really shown to be very beneficial in terms of the results that are reported so far.
Martin, I can see you gesticulating. Do you want to say something? Martin, unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi.
Hey, Martin.
Hi. I'm glad that somebody has pointed you in the self-management materials that Parkinson's UK sponsored, and we ran a few courses using those materials, which we helped develop. But I assume they're not seen as appropriate from what you said just now. Have you seen those materials?
Yeah, you're talking about the first steps?
There's a 6 to 8 week course on self-management of Parkinson's.
Yes. So absolutely. So there are a lot of that's what one of the findings that I was looking at the schematic review. Most of the education that exists in terms of Parkinson focuses on self-management. Yeah, and in the self-management, the topics that are discussed are very general, or they can be very much around developing the goals and all the self-management sort of techniques. And education is one of the it is one of the behavior technique, behavior change technique. Education is one part of it, as is motivation or motivational interviewing, or other sort of goal setting. Education is one part of behavior change technique, and I'm very interested in that specifically, and education, not generally about practice, but education about the role of exercise and physical activity in driving. So I think it's very early, unfortunately, in Parkinson. There's not many studies, only 24 studies or so in self-management, and is unclear on how beneficial they are. And I think it's perhaps because of the fact that they are targeted towards everyone with Parkinson, no matter what stage they are, and they cover the same topics, the same material, no matter how relevant it might be. And I think that what the results show is that you have some people in the early stages that find that information extremely beneficial, and people who are 6-7 years down the line, they say, you know, it was a very interesting program, but it didn't really, I wish I knew that when I was first diagnosed. Now down the line, I already kind of know that. And I think that's where there's a gap. Not necessarily that they're not beneficial, but more that are they really targeting the needs and the preferences as the disease progresses.
Right.
So yeah, no, I'm not looking into self-management program per se. I'm looking more about knowing about exercise improves someone's exercise self-efficacy, especially when it's very early on.
Good, thank you.
Tony, unmute.
Hi. So first, thank you very much. It's most interesting. I empathise with everything that you've said. A lot of the information that I received and still receive is mostly about medication. There's lots of information about exercise around, and there's lots of exercise groups, you know, doing this and that exercise, but I don't know what the best exercise is for me at this stage, because there's lots of suggestions from lots of people, and it's all different, and it's very hard to know what to actually focus on. And I've been through the apathy phase, and my wife says I'm still in it. But you know, I think what you've said is great, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. I'd like to send you a bit of history, really, about what happened with me, so that perhaps you can use that to try and guide your studies, because I think a lot of people have been through their approach. Definitely, everybody's focused on medication. Well, you know, that from the medical point of view, it's always about, you know, how many tablets you're on, and even finding out when to take the tablets is hard. But finding out about the right sort of exercise is so much harder.
Yeah.
You don't know where to start, especially when you're at the sort of stage of Parkinson's that I'm at, because I'm not at the early stages. I'm probably at the sort of mid stages, and you know, there's so many things I need to think about, like, you know, speech therapy, you know, how I can improve or get walking again potentially. So yeah, thank you very much. It's very interesting.
Well, thank you very much for your comments, and I definitely I can provide my information, and we can get in touch, and we can discuss. So that would be excellent. That would be very, very helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lydia?
I've just got a quick one. I wonder have you come across a book by a guy called John Pepper, which is called Reverse Parkinson's Disease? I
haven't actually, no.
Well, he's a South African who claims that by developing a walking regime, really fast walking, he has effectively put back his Parkinson's, I mean, going back years, making himself a lot better. I mean, we've discussed it over this was 2 or 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
Nearly got him to come and talk to us, but it's quite interesting, and it's talked about in another book called The Brain Healing Itself or something like that. I can't remember his name. Can you remember?
Norman Deutsch.
That's right.
Norman Deutsch.
Doidge, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is very interesting, and that's pretty kosher, I think. I mean, it sounds a bit extreme, and he divides neurologists and others. Some think he hasn't got Parkinson's at all, really, and others say he has, and he's boosted levels of GDNF and whatever in the brain through his exercise regime. So it might be worth having a look.
I would definitely look at it. Yeah, thanks for.
Send you the details. I did a thing in the newsletter about it. So
definitely, yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. I'm not. I mean, to be fair, as I'm sure you've heard, I know you've had an amazing chat with Professor Roger Barker some time ago, and you talked about exercise, and I definitely agree that research just shows that exercise is beneficial in many ways. How much it is that it can reverse. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. There's not a lot of enough data at the moment, but all as I said, Parkinson's or not, we know that exercise has a great benefit in preventing lots of chronic conditions, and in Parkinson as well, it's been shown to have a lot of benefits in that role of rehabilitating, but also with medication. And now the neuroprotective role is more and more explored. So it's only good things, I think. Obviously, working at a rate that is good for you, that's also important.
That's brilliant. Do we have any other questions for Ledia? No. Ledia, can I say thank you? Well, it's a thank you to Michelle, and I shall drop her a note to say thank you for introducing us again. It's great to hear what you're doing, and I think from just the quality of the questions you've received and the enthusiasm that sort of bounced out of the screen, that you've got a lot of willing takers here. I'm certain that most of the people around the screen with Parkinson's or somebody with Parkinson's will be in touch. I'll circulate your email address within the next few days with the recording of this.
Thank you very, very, very much for your time, and for as I said, for inviting me to come and talk to you. And I really hope that please do share my details with the group, and I do hope I hear from you, and we can talk further. And yeah, thanks again. I hope that in September, October, I will have some of the data from the surveys and the interviews, and I'll be more than happy either to come and talk again and to tell you what I found, what do people really want to know, or even share a report that you can send.
Certainly, Caroline will be in touch with you to organise to get you back towards the end of the year. I think we will look forward to your smiling face and good information. So,
thank you ever so much. Thank you very, very much.
Can I just ask you to put your hands together for Ledia, please? And
thank you.
Ledia, thank you so much. It's been an absolutely fascinating 45 minutes, and I'm certain we've got a lot of support that we can pass on to you. Yeah, every success with your research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
We're just about to wind up the meeting. If you want to stay, you're very welcome. It'll only be another couple of minutes. I'm very rude, Ruth. Did you want Ruth's chairman of the Peterborough branch? Did you want to say something, Ruth? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I'm very keen on the exercise projects that are going on, so I sort of keep dipping in and out of all of them. So I generally am a real believer that exercise is probably the only thing that has been tried and tested and can make a difference. So I'm all for doing and supporting everything we can, and I'm sure our members will be supportive as well. So thank you. I should look forward to seeing some of the progress later in the year.
Thank you very, very much, and I will get in touch, as I said, to discuss, especially because I'm running a feasibility study which will look at exercise as well as education, and if there are already exercise programs that exist, I'll be excited to work with you and have them as participants to assess and to get them into the study. So I'll definitely get in touch.
That's great. So I'll leave Ruth for you to get in touch with Ledia about sort of your programs. That's fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. Can I thank everybody for turning up today? Particular thank you to our guests from Peterborough. It's lovely to see you. I'm looking forward to getting Alan and Tony in contact. I dare say I'll get you to do a double act in the not too distant future. And a very special thank you to you all for being here on Thursday. That allows me to go and play golf tomorrow. So thank you all very, very much indeed.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Watch out for thunderstorms.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So back to Friday next week. Friday the 13th is our next session, and that's Mike Petty from Cambridge News talking to us about Cambridgeshire history. So I look forward to seeing you all in a few weeks' time. Enjoy the sunshine. Don't overdo it. Don't forget to exercise. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.